Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine Teen Tarot and Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. In this video, I will be sharing my first TBR for the new year, the books I plan to read in January 2025. And this time I have had your help in choosing that TBR. So for folks who might have missed it, not too long ago I put out a call for YouTube viewers to comment and share some prompts with me, the kind of prompts that you find in readathons or in TBR cards, for example, and promised to then make a video constructing a TBR from those prompts for January using only books that I already own but haven't read yet. And when I put out that call, of course, I did not share the books that I have. So the prompts were provided with no idea whether or not I would be able to fulfill them based on what is already on my physical or virtual shelf waiting to be read. So I cut it off at 20 prompts. I am going to attempt to construct a TBR that I can actually complete all of these prompts in January. There's going to clearly be some doubling up needed, but I think that it's doable. So I'll walk you through the 20 prompts first. Then I will show you the list of unread books that I'm working with, and we will go back and forth between a couple of spreadsheets, and I'll try to come up with a TBR that fits all of these prompts. I have done a little bit of thinking and a tiny bit of research beforehand because some of these prompts I really wasn't sure whether I had anything at all or which title would satisfy the prompt, and I didn't want to make this video any longer than you know it's already going to be just because I ramble, so there's a little bit of prep done, but my list is by no means complete, so you'll get to see some of the messy process here. So the 20 prompts that I have to work with here on the spreadsheet that you should be able to see if everything is working are an Own Voices book set in a rural area, a book by a disabled author, a book that is poetic, a book in the genre of humor, a book by a witch, a book in which plants figure prominently, a book with a main character who is a villain, in quotes, villain. That could be read a couple of different ways. A book that you hope surprises you, a translated book, the third book in a series that you've started, a book by a Latin American author, a book by an author who inspires you, a book with a monochromatic cover, the book on my TBR with the longest title, and I opted to count subtitle as well, a book with a protagonist over 50 years old, the book with the oldest living author, a book about alternative timelines, a book about neurodivergence or with a character that is neurodivergent, i.e. fiction or nonfiction as an option, a book about a lie, intrigue, or deception, and a fiction book not in third-person perspective. So those are the 20 that I have to work with. And this is going to be an adventure to fulfill all of these, if I can, from the books that I have. So I also have made a spreadsheet. I learned to make spreadsheets with kind of drop down and color coding and things like in the last year or so, and it's become a problem. I've become an enthusiast. So I've made a chart of all of the books that I have as of today, which is the 25th of December, that I haven't read. And you'll see here that most of them are ebooks, but I have also included the hard copy books. These are the ones that are on my unread bookshelf. They're all in a shelf together. I've also included the page counts of each. For the ebooks, I'm taking that, from online, and the hard copy, I just peeked at the back of the book because I don't want to end up with a list that's completely not feasible. I'm going to try to actually accomplish this challenge. So there are 89 books in this list of unread books that I own. That's almost a year's worth of reading right there. So I have no shortage of choice. You will see here that, a couple of ones I've hidden for the purpose of this video are taken out of the list. That's because I do have some books on this list that I, either just received or haven't gotten a chance to look at yet, that are things like Birds Nearby, a field guide to getting to know birds in your local area, or a couple of like reference books that I haven't gotten a chance to engage with yet that are just not designed to be read cover to cover, and certainly not going to be something that I read in a single month. So I just kind of took those out of consideration because I knew that I wouldn't pick them, just to keep things tidy. But I left everything else in. So we have a big list of books and a couple of kind of magazine issues and things as well that are on my e-reader. And we have these 20 prompts. And so what I'm going to do is start picking titles and putting them in here, and I'll note which prompts they cover, and I'll check off the prompts. I need to double up here. I cannot read 20 books in January. There is no way. 10 maybe, depending on the length, we'll see. But without further ado, I did have to do a little bit of research on a couple of these, as I mentioned. One that I really wasn't sure the answer to, but that is a prompt that's designed in such a way that it only can have one clear answer, is the book with the oldest living author. So of all the books in my list, which author is the oldest and still living? And it turned out that there were actually two. I didn't look up every single author because obviously some of them I know are not going to be the oldest. But I looked up the handful that I figured would be kind of contestants for this. And I'm glad I did, because there were two of them that were actually within just a few months of each other in terms of age. But the oldest living author on my list, who I have a book by that I haven't read yet, is favorite Samuel R. Delany, who is only a few months older, only a few months, I think it was 4 months, older than Crowley, who's also in this list somewhere. John Crowley, who wrote Little Big, is the same age as Samuel Delany, but a little bit younger by a couple of months. So Samuel R. Delany's Babel 17 needs to go on the list. So I'm putting in Babel 17 by Samuel Delany, and the page count on that is 249. I know that this is a dense book. Babel 17 is a science fiction novel that draws on the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, so it has a strong kind of linguistic theme that relates to how language impacts or constrains our thinking. And so there's a fictional language in the novel. So 249 pages is not very much, but I do think it's not going to be the easiest read. So I'm putting this one here. That one is the book with the oldest living author. Now, in terms of other prompts that this could fulfill, I'm fairly sure that it actually is in third person, with the exception of maybe some of the fictional language. I know the fictional language doesn't have I for first person in it. So I'm assuming that it is actually in third person, so I'm not going to check that off. I don't think the protagonist is over 50. It definitely doesn't have the longest title. Okay. So I don't know that the main character is or isn't a villain in Babel 17. Like, I don't know the answer to some of these things. So, we're going to have a bit of a challenge. Do I think that it's probably going to be poetic because it's Samuel Delany? Probably. We'll put it down for oldest living author prompt. And maybe I will also put down author who inspires you, because Samuel Delany, he's a great in science fiction. How could he not? Okay. So we'll put that there. Now, another one that is only going to be able to have one choice is the book with the longest title. So that book is A History of the World in 7 Cheap Things, A Guide to Capitalism, Nature, and the Future of the Planet by Raj Patel and Jason W. Moore. This is just, this is just me going by the width of this column for title. So I didn't count the letters or the words or anything like that, but just going by which one goes right to the edge, I did notice that it was this one. And that's 330 pages. So I'm going to put that one in there. And the authors are Raj Patel and Jason W. Moore. Oh no, it doesn't like me doing a paste like that. Okay. I don't like how this looks. I want it to be aligned nicely. How do I make it? Okay, here we go. Middle. That looks better. Okay. So that one is going to satisfy the longest title. I'm not sure that it fits anything else. I don't understand it to be humorous, or at least not predominantly so. It's nonfiction. I mean, I'm willing to call capitalism a villain, but I don't think that that's the spirit of this prompt. I mean, I hope it surprises me and that I hope I learn something new. Maybe. I don't think that it satisfies any of the others. I'll hold off on calling it the book I hope surprises me because I think I'll probably find something else that fits better, but that's the longest title. So those are the ones that I had researched. Now, another title that has been on my TBR and that I have planned to read a couple of times this year and just never actually gotten to, really jumped to mind with a couple of these prompts. And I don't remember who provided which prompt, but I want to say some of these came from Marlena Teresa. A translated book that is the third book in a series you've started. I have a book that satisfies both of those. For sure. And I don't think I have very many translated books actually in my unread book pile/folder, so I want to choose the one that I know I have, and that's A Snake Lies Waiting by Jin Yong, 442 pages. So this book is a wuxia novel. This is the third novel in the Legend of the Condor Heroes. So it satisfies the third in a series, and it is translated. And I've read books 1 and 2 of Legend of the Condor Heroes, so I'm actually on the third book, so that's perfect. I know that there are some other third books in here as well. So if I end up stuck and I need to make a change, I feel like there are some other options here that are also third books. I know there's one for sure, which is Revenant Gun. Revenant Gun by Yoon-Ha Lee. This is also a third book. It is not translated. It's a science fiction. It's a science fiction novel, the third in a series. I don't know if it would fit anything else. The Lotus Empire by Tasha Suri is also a third book. I'm not sure it would fit anything else. So we'll go with A Snake Lies Waiting, third in a book and translated. And I feel like, it's not humorous. it doesn't fit. I have a pick for monochromatic cover. I don't think this has a monochromatic cover. I don't look at covers very much because I read so many ebooks. Now, I don't know if we would call this a monochromatic cover because the font is a different color than the page. This technically has maybe 3 colors. Monochromatic cover is hard, so I'm not going to use it for that. But I do think a lie, intrigue, or deception is going to work for this book. So hopefully you can see the description here, which I'm pulling from a favorite local bookstore's website. Okay. Now, the main character has walked into another trap, tricked into boarding an unseaworthy barge by the apothecary Wong. The 3 friends will surely drown unless Lotus, who has overheard her father's plans, can find a way to save them. I feel like being tricked into boarding an unseaworthy barge as a premise definitely makes the book about a deception, so I'm going to count that too. That feels reasonable to me. Okay. So we have... This list is dense. This is going to be challenging to get through. I may have to start a little early and start reading one of the books in December and not finish it till January just to get these done. Because I don't anticipate any of these being super easy reads. It's like the Legend of the Condor Heroes are not super dense books, but they are they're lengthy, you know, and they have a lot of characters. They're complex stories. Now, another one that I thought a bit ahead about because I wasn't sure I would have anything is genre humor. I don't really tend to pick things that are humorous as their main selling point. Certainly, you know, lots of books have an element of that, but I don't tend to go for it. So the only things on my list that I have that would come close to this, and one of them I think is going to work really well. I do have 2 issues of the new Escapologist, which is a comedy or comedic kind of journal about escapology, which in this context is about kind of escaping the everyday, escaping consumerism, escaping the 9-to-5 kind of anti-capitalist spirit. And so those are definitely, you know, they're definitely funny and they're definitely intentionally so and predominantly so, I would say. I don't think much of my book list is. You can tell me if you've read anything on my list. If you see anything that you love on my unread books list, I'm curious. Something that is humorous though, that is pitched as humor, that I know I have, is okay. Cedar McCloud's food book. I know I have. Okay, here. Party of Fools. Empire of Eats novella number 1 by Cedar McCloud. Of course, Cedar is the author of The Thread That Binds. Cedar is also, of course, well known in tarot and oracle community for creating the Numinous Tarot and the Threadbound Oracle, the Uncertain Oracle. They recently had a food-related tarot deck on Kickstarter, and so this one, Party of Fools, Empire Eats novella number 1, is going to be my pick for comedy, and it's short. 99 pages. So, that is going to work well for humor. Just happens to be in the same line. And I feel like it's going to fit. It's definitely going to fit. I know that Cedar McLeod identifies as disabled, or is a disabled author, so I can put it there. We should look it up. I don't know if this will be on the bookstore website, or if we have to go to Cedar's website. Oh, that is definitely not it. That is something else that was not what we were looking at. Cedar McLeod. They do not have this book, so Cedar. Okay. Queer ADHD disabled artist and author. I don't think no, neurodivergent author is not an option. Okay. Books. Comedy fantasy with a culinary twist. Does this tie into the food tarot deck? Maybe it does. Diverse ensemble cast, all queer, awesome. Amazing. Lots of books. Oh. More info. Something has caught my eye. Where did it go? Middle-aged halfling musician. There's something about a protagonist over 50 in one of my prompts. Protagonist over 50. Is the middle-aged protagonist over 50? Maybe not. I'm skimming here. It's not as if the Emperor... I don't want to read too much and give it away for myself. It's not as if the Emperor is her only real friend, given the difficulty of fitting in when you're a 200-year-old autistic elf from a lower-class socioeconomic background. Okay, so 200-year-old. 200-year-old is over 50. Also autistic. Cedar McLeod. Cedar McLeod just made my TBR easier. Okay. So... this one has a neurodivergent character and an over 50 protagonist. Well, is it the protagonist? It must be a main character or they wouldn't be mentioned in the blurb. I'm counting it. Protagonist over 50. Neurodivergent character. Look at that. We have 4 books covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 4 books covering 10 prompts. That's pretty good. Now, I found a book with a monochromatic cover by looking in my physical TBR on my shelf. I didn't want to look... like some of the ebooks on this list I've had on my e-reader for a very long time and I don't know what the covers actually look like. So I didn't want to go looking at every single cover to find a monochromatic one. I did find one that I'm going to count as monochromatic on my physical shelf, which is Magic of the Iron Pentacle, Reclaiming Sex, Pride, Self, Power, and Passion by Jane Meredith and Gide Parma. It's not quite, I mean, it has shades on it, but other than the font, this is very definitively all blue. The back is also all blue, unless you count the barcode, which I don't, because otherwise we won't find one. So I'm going to count this as the monochromatic book. And I have it in here somewhere. Here we go. So that is 239 pages. This is a book related to the Reclaiming Witchcraft tradition. I've taken the core class elements in Reclaiming Witchcraft tradition. I wouldn't say that I identify as part of the tradition quite, but I definitely find a lot of resonances in it that feel like they fit with my practice. And so this is related to another course in Reclaiming Witchcraft called the Iron Pentacle. And it's a kind of conceptual tool of a pentacle of 5 points, with the 5 points being sex, pride, self, power, and passion. And as I understand it, pentacle work has to do with kind of thinking the relationship between the different points. So this is going to be another dense one and possibly a personally challenging one. But it is a book by witches, and it is monochromatic. So that covers 2 as well. That covers 2. Now, that leaves not in third person, alternate timelines, a book you hope surprises you. I hope all the books surprise me, so I'll just put that I'll just put that in the one I feel most strongly about at the end. A book with a main character who's a villain. I don't think any of these. I mean, there are definite villains in Legend of the Condor Heroes, but the protagonist is not a villain. And I don't think so there. A book in which plants figure prominently. I feel like a lot of foods are plants, but I feel like that's a bit of a stretch. A book that is poetic. I think that the Iron Pentacle book will be poetic. I also think Babel 17 will be, so I'll just put that somewhere. I don't have any poetry books on my list. I know that. Except for the Illuminated Rumi. But I'm not going to squish Rumi into 1 month TBR in this way. I got the Illuminated Rumi because I want to work with the Sufi tarot in a better way and with more reading besides just the guidebook. So that's why I got that. I don't want to wedge that in here. Really? There's probably some poetry in this is the Friction Literary Anthology issue that came with the Literary Tarot. I still haven't read it. So there's probably some poetry in there. Sarah Ahmed's writing is very poetic, but I am not throwing that into this TBR because it's already dense enough. I don't think it fills any of the other prompts. Audre Lorde, of course, is a poet. This is a book about Audre Lorde's work by Alexis Pauline Gumbs, who is also a poet. It is also 511 pages. And I don't know that it will fit anything else. I don't think so. I don't think so. So we're not going to put that there. I don't have any books of poetry on this list. Not a one. So I think we're going to have to take poetic as poetically written and not book of poetry. Otherwise, I won't be able to do it, and I refuse to admit defeat. A book by a Latin American author. I don't think I have a single authored title by a Latin American author in this list, which is not great, but I don't think I do. But I do have this, To Root Somewhere Beautiful, an Anthology of Reclamation by Lauren T. Davila, who is a Latina author who edited this collection. So I'm going to kind of say that author, editor, I'm going to say that editor counts. I backed this on Kickstarter, actually. It's 351 pages, which is long. Now, I also know, though, this is a very diverse anthology in terms of its contributors. I know that there are Latin American authors in this collection, even if the editor didn't also write a contribution, which I assume that she did. Sorry, I had to edit out some coughing there. Okay. This book, An Anthology of Reclamation, I in part chose because it is a very diverse collection. And I really liked the concept. And the concept relates to nature losing patience with humanity. The wild is done. Based on the fact that there's a story about vigilante trees, want to also count it as plants figuring prominently. I feel like this one, with nature kind of revolting against pollution and kind of human-caused climate change, which is what I understand this to be about, I feel like plants will figure prominently in a lot of stories in here. I think that it's not a stretch to make that assumption. Nature has a voice. What will you do when you hear it? I feel like this is going to be plant heavy. And yeah, the editor, Lauren T. Davila, is a Latina author, and I know there are other Latin American authors in this book. One author here is mentioned born in Puerto Rico, for example. So I think that this one can count. Of course, it's a collection, so every single author will not be a Latin American author, but they are featured in this collection. There are numerous authors that would. So I'll check that off. And I've checked off plants. So what are we doing in terms of page count? I'm going to pull up, I know that you can't see this, but I'm going to pull up a calculator here just to see how we're doing for page count, because I'm getting a little nervous looking at this. Okay. This is an intense list. Okay. Oh, 1710. We're at 1,710 pages so far. That is totally doable. Now we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 prompts not filled. But one of them is The Book You Hope Surprises Me, and that could be a lot of these, and so could Poetic. So really, there's 4 prompts here that I'm not sure. There's Own Voices, book set in a rural area. Own Voices is so complicated. A book that is poetic. A book with a main character who's a villain. A book you hope surprises you. A book about alternate timelines, and a fiction book, that is not in third-person perspective. I know that I have one fiction book not in third-person perspective because it's an ARC that I just got recently. This is already to me, this is a really intense. There's some intense things on this list already, and I think that my pick for not in third person is going to make it quite an intense month as well, because I just know it's going to be terrifying. And that book is The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones, which I got a 448 pages ARC from the publisher from NetGalley for it. So if I put that here, this isn't out until like March or something like that. I know that this is not in third person. And the reason that I know that is because this is, as I understand it, written in terms, it's not epistolary, but like kind of journal entries of a historical figure. And as I understand it, a lot of it is actually in first person with a number of different perspectives. So I think that that one will work there. It is based on historical events, fictionalized in a horror novel context. I'm not going to call it about alternate timelines though, because I don't think it is. I mean, it's definitely historically based, but I would not say it's alternate timelines. I think that it is going to have a main character who's a villain. This is a horror novel. I feel like this is inevitably going to fit. March 18th. In 1912, a strange confession is given over several nights to a Lutheran priest who transcribes the life of a vampire who haunted the fields of the Blackfeet Reservation looking for justice. A diary written in 1912 by a Lutheran pastor is discovered within a wall, and what it unveils is a slow massacre, a chain of events that goes back to 217 Blackfeet dead in the snow. Told in transcribed confessions by a Blackfeet named Good Stab, who shared the narrative of his peculiar life over a series of confessional visits. This is a bloody history of the American West that has remained untold until now. This is definitely going to have a main villain character. Like, there's no way that it wouldn't. So, no scare quotes required around villain for that one. There is a basis for this novel in a massacre that occurred historically. There is villainy there. Colonial violence there. Now, The Barrel Was Someone It May by Margaret Killjoy. I'm going to use that. So this one is a sequel, actually, of something that I already read. And I bought this because I liked the first one, and then I just never read it. 160 pages. So this book, I feel like this will fit. There's a lot of traveling in this book. Okay. Daniel Kane series. Anarchist punk fantasy pitting traveling anarchist Daniel Kane against eternal spirits, hypocritical ideologues, and brutal, unfeeling officers of the law. This book has, at least the first book, had rural settings. They do move around some, as the, traveling suggests. But there's definitely rural context here. Margaret Killjoy is based in the Appalachians. And Margaret Killjoy is a trans author, and she, in this book, has some of the characters are trans or gender nonconforming characters as well, at least in the first book, and I understand this to mostly continue forward with the same characters. So that one, that'll work. For sure. For own voices in a rural area, I would say. Now, okay. I know that Babel 17 will be poetic in its own way because it has a fictional language in it. I feel like Samuel Delany is such a wonderful writer. I know that it will be. A book that I hope surprises me. I hope I hope to find something hopeful in A History of the World in 17 Things. I don't expect to. So I'll call that hopes. I hope that surprises me. A book about alternative timelines. Now, I don't think that The Barrow Will Send What It May is about alternative timelines. I don't think that any of these things are about alternate timelines. Now, checking on my calculator here, we've added 2 books. That brings us up to 2,318. This is ambitious. This is ambitious. None of these books are about alternative timelines at all. At all. I don't think. Maybe there's some kind of alternate timeline, something or other in Babel 17, but I don't think there is. I don't think anything. Okay. What in my TBR is based on alternate timelines? The effort is about a meteor coming towards hitting Earth. I don't think it has alternative timelines. I don't think The Starless Sea. See, this is what happens when you buy a bunch of books and then they sit on your e-reader for a really long time. This is a fantasy novel. I don't think that there's anything. Oh. Lovers who pass notes under doors and across time. Okay. This has across time in the description. I think it's also really long. 487. Okay, that's a possibility. Oh. I don't want to move you. Okay, Giovanni's Room does not have. Sleeping Giants does not have alternate timelines. Leviathan Wakes, this is the first book in the Expanse series. I do not think there's alternate timelines in the first book. This is nonfiction. That's going to be a no. No. Machine Hood does not that I know of. The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories might. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Does the Paper Menagerie have alternate timelines? There is nothing in this description that suggests that it does, so we're going to assume no. Little Big is too long to add to this list. This is nonfiction, nonfiction. Mark of the Cat and Year of the Rat, these are based in the world of Terror of the Cat People. I don't think that there's alternative timelines in any of these. These do not. I don't think there is in The Party of Fools. Cedar McLeod. The Book That Keeps on Giving. I don't think that there's alternate timelines in here. No. Don't think so. This is nonfiction. I have no idea what's in the Strange Horizons funding drive collection. This is a Kickstarter thing. Into the Drowning Deep is about cannibalistic mermaids. That is not an alternate timelines thing. Golem and the Jinny has multiple timelines. I don't know that they are alternate timelines. Confessions of the Fox. There's something about... There's something in this one about timelines. It's in the 18th century. I don't think that the 18th century on its own constitutes an alternate timeline. Circe, that would be a no. Oh my goodness. Alien Clay does not. Now, Revenant Gun, in this book series, there's people brought back from like people who die can be kind of brought back in a way in this series. I don't think that counts as alternative timelines either. The Lotus Empire does not. I don't think that this does. Does it? I should have planned this one better. Okay. No. This is on a generational spaceship. That is not an alternate timeline. The Undertakers, this is a sequel. This is a fantastical, like this is like a historical fantasy. So that could maybe, it's not like multiple timelines though. None of these are. This is a Lost Ark Dreaming is, I think, is like a bit of a post-apocalyptic one. I don't think that it's alternative timelines either. Snowpiercer meets the Deep. Neither of those things. No. No, that is not alternate timelines. Why is it so hard to find a timelines book? See, if I was just rereading This Is How You Lose the Time War again, that would be perfect, but it's not in my unread list because I've read it twice. I don't think Saturation Point has alternate timelines either. Climate Thriller. That one probably has plants, but we already covered that. That's a no. Live Suit. This is set in the world of a novel that I just read. But it doesn't have alternate timelines either. Stories of Queer and Trans Futurity. This is a arc that I just got, that I liked the title of. Potentialities of Our Queer and Trans Futures. So those are futuristic. Okay. Imagining how queer life will look centuries in the future or 10 years from now. I feel like that's kind of alternative timelines, but it's a collection, so it's not one book with many timelines, but maybe that would fit. There's Margaret Killjoy again in there. That's a good possibility. That's the best possibility so far. Horror fiction. I don't think that Transmutation Transscience has alternate timelines. Buffalo Hunter Hunter is historical and is fictionalized. But I don't think that's alternate timelines. These would not. And then most of the hard copy books, I haven't been looking at the hard copy books at the bottom of the spreadsheet too much because most of these are nonfiction. I mean, I feel like I could use Hot Equations. Maybe. That would be a stretch, though. I'd be interpreting the prompt into a conceptual of way. Okay, The Many Lives of the Multiverse. That one. I don't think that was intended by the prompt. A book about alternative timelines. Now, multiverse cosmologies. Imagining our universe as one of a vast number of others is now being considered as a scientific hypothesis. Exploring the reasons for the recent appearance of theories of the multiverse. The allure of the multiverse. If all possible worlds exist somewhere, then like monkeys hammering out Shakespeare, one universe is bound to be suitable for life. Of course, this hypothesis replaces God with an equally baffling article of faith. The existence of universes beyond, before, or after our own, eternally generated, yet forever inaccessible to observation or experiment. This is by definition a book about multiple timelines. Like multiple universes. And that's 343 pages. That is the best fit. That is the best fit. Oof, that's a hard. That one and Iron Pentacle and History of the World and 7 Cheap Things. That's a lot of nonfiction. That's tough. That's tough. That's tough. Y'all came up with some hard prompts for me. You all have challenged me. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And you know what? The reason that I'm going to put this is because this book, The Many Lives of the Multiverse, has been on my shelf for a long time. This book was a gift, a holiday gift, this time last year. So, it is about time that it is about time. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. That satisfies all of the prompts. We have Babel 17 by Samuel R. Delany, the oldest living author represented in my TBR. He's in his early 80s. He inspires me, and his work is poetic. A History of the World and 7 Cheap Things, A Guide to Capitalism, Nature, and the Future of the Planet. This one, I hope, surprises me with some hope, and it is also the longest title. A Snake Lies Waiting by Jin Yong is the third in a series. It is translated, and it is about a lie, intrigue, or deception. Party of Fools, Empire of Eats, novella number 1 by Cedar McLeod is humorous. It is by a disabled author. It has a neurodivergent character, and it has a protagonist who is age 50 plus. Thank you, Cedar McLeod. Magic of the Iron Pentacle, Reclaiming Sex, Pride, Self-Power, and Passion is a monochromatic book cover. It's all blue. It's also by witches. To Root Somewhere Beautiful, an anthology of reclamation, is edited by Lauren T. Davila, who is a Latina author, and it is an anthology that includes Latin American authors. I am assuming that plants figure prominently in this one because of the theme of nature fighting back. The Buffalo Hunter is a book that is going to be one that I can't read at night because Stephen Graham Jones writes a scary book. The Buffalo Hunter is not in the third person, and it definitely has a villainous main character in there somewhere. I know it. The Barrow Will Send When It May by Margaret Killjoy is an Own Voices book in a rural area. And Worlds Without End, The Many Lives of the Multiverse by Mary Jane Rubenstein is a book about alternate timelines. I have done it. I have done it. That's my TBR for January. Thank you, everybody who gave me some prompts. Even though you all made this so hard. Thank you all so much. I will look forward to sharing my thoughts on these books with you at the end of January or thereabouts. I have my reading cut out for me. I may cheat a little bit, start a little bit early on some of these longer texts. But this is a really good list, I think. We've got a number of genres of fiction and some nonfiction. I'm excited. Thank you for helping me start off my 2025 with this TBR. I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching.